Welcome, Sojourners, to the Women's Leadership Mindset series presented by Teresa K. Page, LLC. My name is Teresa Page. I am your host and looking forward to spending these next few moments with all of you. We have a lot of work to get done on today, but first, allow me to invite you to connect with me by subscribing to my website and YouTube channel. Connect and follow me on LinkedIn, and always feel free to contact me directly via email at teresakpagellc@outlook.com. So what is our goal? Well, as an author, speaker, coach, and mentor, my mission is to help professional women renew their leadership mindset with fresh fire and purpose through the mediums of leadership development and coaching services. However, the Women's Leadership Mindset series is a new initiative intended to spotlight powerful women leaders and how they serve the world through their professions and purpose. So with the goal to help women realize their unfulfilled dreams and re-energize the leaders they always were. This platform is designed to enhance, empower, educate, equalize, and even emancipate as our special guests share their entrepreneurial stories, provide valuable resources, and guidance in a caring, professional, and impactful manner. So, let's get down to business. Now, for the next few moments, I invite you to take a stroll with me down memory lane through a journey of love as I continue to build my case why love is the ultimate key to women's success. So let's take down this stroll with me. So on our journey, if you remember, as children, we were first introduced to love and affection by our parents, our siblings, and of course our family members, whether it's our aunties and our uncles or our cousins. That is when we were first introduced to love. And as we grew, we were introduced to love and affection by special interests. And that is when we had the opportunity to choose our friend. Maybe we had the same kind of color or the same type of cartoons, or maybe we had the same type of baby doll or like the same type of puzzles or subject matter in school. But whatever the special interest that was able to connect you, we were then introduced to love and affection by being able to choose our friends. And of course, as we get older, we were then introduced to other demonstrations of love and affection through our passionate relationships with our significant others or our spouses. And as we mature in life, many of us choose to establish an unconditional type of love, unconditional love, a faith love relationship with God or a deity. And so along the way, outside of these things, along the way, we also intermingle with other things that I call lovey-dovey fantasy ideals, which are wrapped in either fairy tales or romance novels or adult entertainment, soap operas, movies, as well as social media. Now, I'm not going to get caught up as far as condemning any of these things because they do have a place. They all have a place in our human curiosities, and that's fine. However, because most fantasies associated with these mediums are heavily marketed towards either young girls, teenagers, as well as adult women, it's usually around these areas that things can get tricky for us and how love the water concerning love can get muddied, or our ideal or perceptions about love can be skewed. So let's talk about that a little more. There are actual studies, ladies, that talks about the harmful impacts, whether it's with social media and romance novels. So you might say, well, Teresa, these things are only entertainment. You're making too much of this. So what is the harm? Well, as I mentioned, the potential harm is that The misrepresentation of love in the lives of women can be catastrophic. As we mentioned, it can be catastrophic to our self-image, our self-esteem, as well as our self-worth. But it can also cause us, because our ideals are skewed, our relationship ideals are skewed, it can cause us to lose patience in waiting for true love, where we're actually valued, where we're actually cared for. And it can cause us to settle for something that looks like love, that only resembles love, just so that we could beat the clock of either our age or, well, why aren't you married now? So you got those social stigmas as well as those biological urgencies. You hear your clock ticking. But the continued potential harm of the misrepresentation of love, especially in the lives of women, is the damage that we can cause to existing relationships if they don't resemble what we have seen on social media or what we have seen in the movies or on soap operas. Okay, so we can actually damage something that's already good because it doesn't look like A and B, sister or brother over here. And it can also cause us to even jeopardize our own safety, our own hopes, and our dreams. That most women can leave these things behind in an effort to say that I have somebody. So you won't become everything that you can be because you're trying to be with someone over here, or you'll put your own life at risk just because you have a weird love or an attachment to someone else. So you might say, well, Teresa, you're still making too much out of this. What is the big deal? Well, the big deal for women is that love is everything for us. I realize that we like to leave it at home when we go to work and we're trying to prove that we're the woman in our workplaces and all of that. But love is everything to us, whether we admit that or not. Love is our nerve center. It is our fuel. It is necessary as food, as air and water. It has everything to do with how we see ourselves, how we perceive the world, and how we interact with others. And love is that driving factor behind all of our major decisions, whether we believe it or not, whether you decide to take that job. You're doing it because, is this going to work well with my loved ones at home? Or, when we're making decisions, we do consider those that we value and that we care about, even when it comes to our own personal decision making. So love also motivates our overall success as well as our performance. And without love, ladies, we will dysfunction. Maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but without love, dysfunctioning is imminent. It's going to happen. But yet, with love, and this is so important, with love, every limitation that is placed on us, whether from society, from our culture, or even religion, those limitations are broken. And this is the realm that we want to be in. This is the place that I want to focus on. This place of no limitation. And love can get us there. But the question is, how do we get there? Well, let's see. Before we move forward, this is another opportunity for us to jump in. What do you think? How do we get to this place of no limitation in love? I want to know your thoughts about that. How do we get to the place of no limitation in love? Think about that and let me hear your answers in the chat. How can we get to this place of no limitation? Dr. Bond, you said something I am working on myself is forgiveness. That's absolutely one way for us to get to that place of no limitation in love. Self-forgiveness. And I hope you will give yourself the grace to forgive yourself, because you're already forgiven in other places. So I hope that you would give your own self the grace to forgive yourself and move on, as well as others. The same grace, my sister, to forgive others. Thank you so much for sharing. So, how do we get to this place? Get to the place of no limitation in love? Well, let's talk about it. It may not be mainstream, and I don't want everybody to tense up, but it may not be mainstream, but we must be willing to revisit the idea that God is love. Or another way to say it is that God equals love. And so this really means that if we can grasp the notion that whatever God can do, love can do. And this sets us on a path of understanding, sets us on a path to lead us to this place of no limitation, understanding the idea that God is love. Now, ladies, this is a game changer for us. And I know you say, well, Teresa, we've heard this before. Yeah, we've heard it before in Sunday school. For those of us, I'm a preacher's kid, so Sunday school was where I heard it from. It was the easiest thing to share with the little people. God is love. But it's such a powerful statement. And it's a game changer for us, because if we as leaders can grasp this idea that God is love, then we can begin to stretch love past understanding, past knowledge, past emotional limitations, even past religions, so that we can practically engage its potential as a competitive edge to be innovative in our careers and in our businesses, to fully be present for our families, our teams, and our stakeholders, knowledgeable in industry trends, and benevolent in our community service, and most importantly, so that we are powerful in leadership. So for the next few moments, we are going to step in to some faith space here, and we're going to review God's nature, character, and intelligence so that we can continue to build upon the case about what love can really do. So let's move forward. So just a real quick story. I remember, and we're not going to church here, but as I mentioned earlier, some of these, the principles I'm sharing with you are faith-based, are grounded in faith. But I want us to be able to see beyond this. So I remember when I was a little girl, I was somewhere around the age of 7 and 8, and I used to follow my dad around. He was a preacher. He passed away in 2010. But when I was around 7 and 8 years old, I used to follow my dad around, and I used to ask him, well, where did God come from? Where did God come from? Were there others like him? Did he come from a different dimension? And every single time he would give me the same answer. He would say it real slow. If you had a country dad like I did, he would be like, child, God is, God was, and God is to come. That was his answer every single time that I asked him that. And of course, in my 7 and 8-year-old mind, that was not an answer. Until one day he actually put our big family Bible, and that was always lived in the living room. One day he set us in our living room and he put this Bible in my lap, and he read to me Revelations 4. So I'm not going to go into that and read it, but if you get a chance, I want you to take some time in your free time and read it. Well, one of the things that was so important about this particular text, it was from the Apostle John's perspective. And according to the text, he shared that there was a door open in heaven and that he was invited to come up. And there was a lot of amazing things that John described in his writings. But what captured my attention was his brilliant description of the throne that sat in heaven and the one who sat on it. So I've been in church my whole life up until that point. Now, mind you, I'm just 7 or 8, but all my life I remember just being in church. But in this moment, I felt like this was the first moment that I met the Lord for myself. And in this instance, I was introduced to him as a king, not just as a savior, not just as a creator. While all of those are powerful, I was introduced to him as a king. And I was hooked from this moment. And I never saw him as a religious figure again. And so, as such, this has helped me to integrate him in all of my spaces and not just in my faith spaces. And it does give me more of a competitive edge in anything that I put my hands to do. So, what I learned from this perspective, I've come to realize that as a king, the Lord is a monarch of all. So, if he is all powerful, then love is unlimited in authority or influence. And if God is all present, then love is also present in all places at all times. If God is all knowing, then love is infinite in awareness, understanding, and insight. And if God is a creator of all, then love is unlimited in creative power. And if God is perfect in all goodness, then love is unlimited in benevolence. So the question is, why is this important to us? Well, this is important because if we can see the Lord on this level of sovereignty, regardless of what your religious affiliations are, we're not here for that. This is bigger than that. But if we're able to see the Lord, or if you're able to invite him into your spaces and see him at this level of sovereignty, then this will help us to detect just how heavy and broad in scale that love truly is. So as we practically invite love into our major life matters that need serious intervention, we are inviting all of love's power, immediate presence, knowledge, creativity, and goodness to help us with the heavy lifting of our serious issues. So I want us to take a minute and, based on this information about that, whatever God can do, love can do, whether it's in all power, all knowledge, all presence, benevolence, or creativity, I want you to identify a pending moment in your life. And you don't necessarily need to respond here in the chat. This is something for you to write down in your own notes. I want you to consider a pending moment in your life that needs serious intervention. In order to resolve your issue, consider, of the people you value or the places that you trust, where could you go right now, today, to get either the influence, the presence, the information, the resource, or the generosity that's needed to solve your issue? I ask you this question because love will meet you there. So think about an issue. It could be pending, or something that was most recent, or something that is sitting on the horizon, but you can see it, that is going to be serious. It's going to be a big deal. And I want you to consider, of the people that you love and you value, and the places that you trust, where could you go right now, either today or in your very near future, to get the kind of resolution you need to solve your problem? I want you to jot that down. Thank you, leaders, for joining me for another episode of the Women's Leadership Mindset series. As always, until next time, here's to the journey, and let's move forward.